From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
Breaking records.
He said, "Hey Pete, what's the record price?" And I said, "Well, Matt, $83,000 is the record."
See what someone paid for this tractor as parts of the Midwest face a hurricane on land.
What a mess.
A look at the damage left behind from another derecho as USDA delivers a shock to the grain markets.
Overall, that corn planter just kept right on a roller.
Team coverage on reaction to the June acreage report and what that means going forward right now on AgDay. Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Corn and soybeans moved in opposite directions to end last week, with corn sinking and soybeans soaring as the markets tried to digest USDA's June acreage report. The agency now calling for 94.1 million acres of corn. That's up 6% or 5.52 million acres from last year, much higher than it predicted back in March and way above what the trade predicted. If it holds true, it represents the third highest planted acreage in the U.S. since 1944. Now for soybeans, it's estimated farmers planted 83.5 million acres. That's down 5% from last year and way below what it thought would be planted in March and what the market predicted. While wheat, it's estimated up 9%, closer to that March prediction. Cotton coming in at 11.1 million acres, down 19% and a little lower than first thought. Another key crop to point out here is sorghum, with USDA calling for almost 1 million more acres than it did back in March. As we said, the news was big-time bullish for soybeans to end last week, with several contracts climbing more than 80 cents at one point. AgDay's Michelle Rook joins us. And Michelle, some traders were scratching their heads over those corn and soybean acreage numbers.
Yeah, that's right, Clinton. The USDA reports provided a bullish surprise for soybeans, with acreage down 4 million from the March prospective plantings report and last year, while corn acreage was bearish, coming in over 2 million higher than March, but over 5.5 million over last year. So where did those shifts come from? The USDA data indicated farmers across most of the U.S. planted more corn at the expense of beans, with the big percentage gains coming in the South, but the biggest total acreage gains were in the North and I-states versus a year ago.
North Dakota looks like they're about 1 million acres more than last year at this time frame, picking up about 500,000 each in Minnesota as well as South Dakota. There's still some bean acres that are unplanted out there yet, so we'll have to see how that kind of shakes out. I think that came into play a little bit as well. But at least at this time frame, it just feels like the northern tier picked up the bulk of those acres. But we saw gains as well as in the key I-states too, you know, with acres being gained in both Iowa and Illinois for corn planting this year.
Compared to the March prospective plantings report, corn acreage was up 500,000 in Illinois, while soybean acres dropped 800,000. In Iowa, corn acres were up 300,000, with beans down 400,000. But Missouri was also down 400,000 on beans, and North Dakota down 900,000. Heinberg says the open weather for planting pushed more corn in the central and eastern corn belt, and in the north, when the weather finally broke, farmers just barreled through on corn.
So again, it just feels like they pushed that corn crop in the ground. You know, we always kind of say guys like planting corn, and the weather was really pretty good in that window. If you think about it overall, that corn planter just kept right on a rolling.
All wheat acres were down around 300,000 from the March intentions, with winter wheat acreage down 500,000 from March, likely due to abandonment, but it was offset by higher other spring wheat acres at 11.1 million. I'm Michelle Rook reporting for AgDay.
All right, thanks, Michelle. Meanwhile, USDA also releasing its quarterly grain stocks report. Corn stocks in June were 4.11 billion bushels. That's down 6% compared to a year ago. Soybeans totaling 796 million bushels, 18% below a year ago, while wheat stocks, they totaled 580 million bushels, also well below a year ago. All three were below trade expectations. This is also something that could impact production down the road, a derecho hitting the Midwest last week. Storms initially starting over northeast Colorado before heading into southern Nebraska on Wednesday, then strengthening again over Iowa and into Missouri before bringing damaging winds over Illinois and Indiana Thursday evening. Wind gusts were reported to be up to 100 miles per hour in some places, flattening fields of corn in Illinois. Now, the Illinois State Police at one point reporting several semi-rollovers on I-57 and power lines down across the highway. Andrew Pritchard is a meteorologist with Nutrient Ag Solutions. He toured the damage in central Illinois around Farmer City just after the storm pushed through.
This is not a small tree. It's me for scale. I could make a fort down in there. This is unfortunate. It's huge trees. This house got hit hard. There's another tree that fell on it. The gentleman over here said it just took seconds for all this to happen. And these trees are kind of laying from southeast to northwest, which is what got my attention. What a mess.
We're not expecting to see the large-scale impact that we saw compared to August 2020, partly because it's earlier in the growing season, crops are not as high and susceptible to damage, and also just the fact that winds weren't quite as high and the aerial extent wasn't as great. Still, though, another blow for producers already reeling from drought, now contending with the effects of a significant windstorm that blew through the area on June 29th.
The storm then pushing into Indiana, tearing through more fields, including these cornfields in Russiaville outside of Kokomo. The Midwest could use more rain, but obviously not the wind. Meteorologist Andrew Whitmire has a look ahead.
And regarding the wind, we don't need it for the Midwest and the Corn Belt areas where we've been dry again for the past several weeks, so we don't need any further wind that could further dry out that top layer of soil. And as we advance the wind gust future track here, again, notice how the Midwest really missing out on the wind, which is good news. And we're going to see the winds pick up as across the west coast here. We're going to be watching the arrival here of a trough, and that will again bring with it some cooler weather as we get just past the July 4th holiday weekend for many parts here of the country. Let's walk you through our precipitation, though. Again, we're going to start to see this rain really starting to ramp up here across parts of the Midwest and Great Lakes states, which is good news. Again, we really need the moisture here around the Corn Belt, and it looks like we are going to flavor it at times with some scattered showers and thunderstorms. And underneath those showers and thunderstorms, that's where we could pick up a few more inches of water. In this video, coming to us from one area that really needs the rain, Nebraska, especially York County, where 100% of the county is in exceptional drought, the highest end of the drought monitor, and you can see what it's doing right here to the corn crop. Colton Chrisman sharing this heartbreaking video. He says surrounding counties all look similar. I'll have a look ahead to see if any rain is in the forecast for that area and the rest of the Midwest coming up in my full Ag Day forecast.
Another report had some surprises for the markets. The latest hogs and pigs report. USDA's second quarter inventory came in at 72.4 million head. That's up slightly from last year, but down 1% from the March inventory. The total inventory was up roughly 80,000 head, exceeding the range of pre-report estimates. Now the breeding inventory, it's in at 6.15 million head. That was down slightly from a year ago, but up 1% from the previous quarter.
The more bullish aspect of the market would be the farrowing intentions, June through August at 96%, September through November at 96%, below the trade expectations. If that comes to fruition and those prices or those numbers aren't adjusted, we could be seeing a tighter hog supply come next year, and that could support prices more.
Market hog inventory is in at 66.2 million head. That's up slightly from last year, but down 1% from last quarter. Russian officials are saying they see no reason to extend the Black Sea grain deal beyond the deadline later this month. Russia's foreign minister saying the West has acted in a, quote, outrageous way over the agreement, but he is assuring poor countries Russia grain exports will continue. Russia's demanding it be reconnected to the SWIFT payment system and that supplies of ag machinery and parts to Russia be resumed. The deal was brokered this time last year between Russia and Ukraine with help from the United Nations and Turkey. Now, it allows food and fertilizer to be exported from 3 Ukrainian ports. The deal has been extended 3 times, but the latest extension is due to run out Monday, July 17th. And USDA says the work of several government agencies helped to resolve an issue that temporarily stopped U.S. poultry product exports to Colombia. It comes after Colombia announced plans to deny import permits to any poultry products starting the beginning of this month out of concerns about highly pathogenic avian influenza. But officials say the U.S. government leveraged its free trade agreement to persuade Colombia officials to lift the ban. Now, it's reported Tyson Foods, Price Smart, and McDonald's were some of the main companies impacted, adding up to roughly $1.1 million worth of U.S. poultry between June 3rd and June 8th. Colombia is our 10th largest market for poultry exports. It was a wild day for markets following those USDA reports. Let's see where things began this week with Michelle Rook in Markets Now. And later, we hit the auction block with Machinery Pete as he witnesses new records being broken. We'll tell you by how much in the country. A stunner of a report from USDA to end last week. Can that momentum stay for soybeans? Michelle Rook is back with a deeper dive into the numbers and what they mean going forward in Markets Now.
Joining us with market analysis, Matt Bennett with agmarket.net. We ended after the reports on Friday with soybeans sharply higher, corn lower. And Matt, let's talk about soybeans. We lost 4 million acres. How does that work into the balance sheet, and what does it mean for prices longer term?
You know, given the fact that our carryout is pretty tight as far as old crops concerned, you start throwing this number in to a new crop balance sheet. And obviously demand for beans has outpaced demand for corn, relatively speaking. You know, if you plug 83.5 into a balance sheet, you can come up with some negative numbers as far as carryout's concerned. We know the USDA is not going to do that. They're probably going to slash some demand. We also know that world stocks of beans are ample, to say the least. And so it's going to be very interesting to kind of see how world stocks shift around, first of all. And second of all, you know, we're going to probably import some beans in the Southeast coast, maybe even some bean meal. Who knows? It's just going to be pretty interesting to see how this all plays out. But let's face it, this report was extremely bullish, whether you're talking about acreage or, you know, less stocks than what the trade was expecting or versus a year ago.
Yeah, huge bullish surprise, a big game changer. We also got a bit of a bearish surprise with the higher corn acres above last year by almost 5.5 million acres. But will we get an offset to some degree from some lower yields, or where do you see the balance sheet shaken out?
I'll tell you what, there's a lot of moving parts there, Michelle. Here's the thing. Whenever it comes to corn, USDA has probably overstated demand by a decent amount. We think exports are going to come down. Ethanol down a little bit, maybe. It's made a nice little resurgence here lately. And then, of course, cattle on feed, you know, are lower. So feed usage is not going to be robust by any means. But whenever I start looking at 94 million acres of corn, what it does with 50% good to excellent ratings that we've got currently, it gives you a little bit of wiggle room. You know, you don't have to have this, you know, just fantastic yield whenever you're looking at 94 million acres. It just gives you more buffer. And so it's going to be a headwind for the corn market for sure. Obviously, some places are starting to get a little bit of rainfall. And so if you would turn the weather pattern to more of a wetter one, I'll tell you what, this massive shift that we saw after the report with beans up versus corn over $1, you know, that might be something that's just the beginning of a trend that we're going to see coming up.
All right. Thanks for joining us, Matt Bennett with agmarket.net. That's Markets Now, and we'll have more Ag Day coming up.
To contact Matt Bennett at Ag Market, call 844-4AG-MARKET or visit their website at www.agmarket.net. Your next piece of equipment is on MachineryPete.com. Search equipment from dealerships across the country to find what you're looking for. Only on MachineryPete.com.
Looking at the temperature outlook here as we go into the start now of July, and notice that trough that I was talking about there in crop comments, it's going to come back into play here across the heartland here of the country. And that's going to bring with it the potential for some cooler weather, as well as hopefully again some of those precious liquid gold raindrops here as well. And that should help to temporarily try to shut off some of that relentless heat down across the southern tier of Texas, where they've been hanging out into that triple-digit heat mark for the past several days of last week. Taking a look at the latest U.S. drought monitor, and again, the eastern half here of Nebraska and Kansas really does need the moisture. And it does look like that we're going to get a few sips of water here and there, but for the bulk, though, we're going to have to, again, wait and see kind of what Mother Nature provides us day to day here as we go throughout this week. And we continue to kind of see that severe drought to starting to expand a little bit further up across parts of the Midwest and Great Lakes states. Walking through flooding potential on this Monday. We're not going to see a ton of that around the country here through at least the July 4th holiday weekend, but we will be watching places up around Philly, up around New York, over into Washington as well, for the potential here for a few heavier pockets of downpours. And then as we head on into Tuesday, this is the arrival here of the trough moving through parts of the northern prairie. That'll hopefully again squeeze out a few of those raindrops there for parts of Nebraska, down towards Kansas as well. And we'll tap into even some of that moisture here as we head on into the Great Lakes and Midwestern states. Back to our wind forecast here. Not a ton of wind here on this Monday. The bulk of the wind's going to stay off to our west. And as we take a look here at the jet stream going forward for a brand new week and a brand new month here, again, we're going to be watching for that trough to develop up across the northern prairie, and we'll see how far deep that can work its way further off to the south, as that'll provide some of us around the Midwest, Great Lakes, and parts of the Plain States with some added moisture chances here as we head on into Wednesday, right on into Thursday. Here's a look at temperatures across the country. 88 into Chicago, 83 up into Bismarck, and still looking at near triple-digit heat there down around San Antonio. That's a look around the country. Well, let's get a look at your AgDay select cities. Going on over to Vernal, mostly sunny, high temperature near 90 degrees. Going over to Logan, mostly sunny, 91 degrees. And looking at partly cloudy skies there for parts of Artrusa.
Health officials are reporting 5 cases of malaria in the U.S. 4 cases have turned up in Florida, 1 in Texas. They say the cases do not appear linked to each other. Now, malaria is often spread through mosquitoes, blood transfusions, organ transplants, and unsafe needle sharing. Public health officials in Florida say they will try to control the mosquito population. Records are still falling at equipment auctions around the country. Machinery Pete has the latest numbers coming up next. Plus, a lost kangaroo, but not in Australia, where it was found and how it's doing in the country. Records are made to be broken, and as Machinery Pete shows us, some of those historical highs are still falling.
Okay folks, time for a trip down memory lane. Now I've posted over 2,100 Machinery Pete YouTube videos the last 14 years, and I remember standing at a sale on my birthday, December 1st, 2009, near Madison, South Dakota. Amazing sale, tons of records set that day, including on this tractor, a 1995 Case IH 7250. Only had 554 hours on it, sold for $83,000. Now, if we zoom forward to an auction about a year and a half later, April 9th, 2011, in Eota, Minnesota, this 96 model 7250 with 2,758 hours on it was up for sale. And the auction company here was Mehring Auction Company, my good friend Matt Mehring. And he stopped the sale when the bid got up to $80,000. And he said, "Hey, Pete, what's the record price?" And I said, "Well, Matt, $83,000 is the record." Well, Matt did his thing, and that one wound up selling for $85,500. Now, that was the record high price for over 12 years until last Tuesday, when BigIron.com had an online farm retirement auction in Lestat, Illinois, where this 95 model 7250, 3,653 hours on it, sold for $127,750. Folks, it's a record by over $42,000. And oh, by the way, that same auction last Tuesday, this 97 model 8920, 2,827 hours on it, went for $125,250. Record auction price by just over $25,000.
Police in farm country are used to wrangling livestock that sometimes get loose, but probably not kangaroos, where this one was found in the country.
Registration is open for the 2023 Pro Farmer Crop Tour, August 21st through the 24th. Attend one of our nightly meetings or join online as we gain insight on the 2023 growing season. Visit profarmercroptour.com/register to select the stop nearest you.
A strange one for police in Kansas. They may be used to dealing with livestock that sometimes go wandering off, but not what they found recently in a field in eastern Kansas. Officers from Bonner Springs and Edwardsville finding an injured kangaroo. Now, it was hiding in some tall grass near I-435 in Kansas City, Kansas last week. Police originally thought it was a wallaby, but it was later determined to be a young kangaroo. Police posting pictures on social media saying the animal was under veterinary care and they gave it a bed to sleep in overnight. They were able to find the owner, who told them the kangaroo is named Star. They say that Joey had jumped out of the window of his car while he was being transported back from an event at a local library. They say the animal is part of a petting zoo. Now, Star had suffered some cuts and other injuries, but was eating and drinking and was expected to make a full recovery. And that's all the time we have this morning. We're sure glad you tuned in and started your week with us. From all of us here at AgDay, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great week out in Farm Country.